There's no wind here. I've been protected all night, so that's been great. The tent, it's a summer tent. It's cloud up, Naturehike cloud up 2 Pro. It's a summer tent, 100%. There's so much mesh inside. It was very cold last night, and the temperatures were warmer than what I normally have been camping in over the last couple of months, and yet I felt much colder. And the sleeping bag that I was using also didn't help. It was a much lighter weight sleeping bag by Van Gogh. It was also an acrylic filling, not a down filling. I felt it a bit last night, I've got to be honest. So I didn't sleep too great. Other things with the tent, I don't like the door. You know, I like this tent, but you know, for the money, it's amazing. I'm not a big fan of the door either, just for getting in and out. I don't think it's great. I'm not sure why they've got that sort of design. But other than that, it did great. Didn't make any noise. Didn't have much wind to deal with. So yeah, good, all good. And to be fair, you know, none of the tents I've got I've liked at first. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. What's the wind like when I come out here? We've got no mics, if you had to hear it. Oh, and I've got the sunrise. Superb. Picture time. That is what it's all about. And it is actually very cold, I have to say. It's cold, much colder than I was expecting it to be. I haven't got my thermometer with me, so I don't know for certain, but I'm going to guess down about 4 degrees. My back, my knees, my ankles, my feet, everything feels fine after yesterday's walk. It's probably because I didn't hit it really hard. I did do a decent pace, 14 miles in about 7-8 hours. But yeah, I feel good. I feel good. I've certainly got another 12 miles in me, no problem. So I'm quite looking forward to the walk now. I'm just going to do some stretches. I'm going to make some noodles. And then I'm going to head off. There are 2 routes from here back to Fowey, so I've got to decide upon one. But it's somewhere beginning with an L. I thoroughly enjoyed those noodles, and they're full of salt, and there was a lot of water, so that's really good for things like cramps and your muscles and your brain as well, because I was feeling a little bit of a headache this morning, and that's gone. So yeah, I highly recommend noodles as a camping food. People frown, they go, oh, noodles, and it's like, yeah, if you add the flavourings that they provide, and it's full of all sorts of different salts, and I'm sure it's not deliberate. And I'm sure long term it's not a survival food, but for a camp like this, it's very lightweight, easy to cook, and rehydrates you and provides you with the salts that you need. And I always have cured sausage and stuff, which I bought in Lanavet. So I've had some cured sausage as well, and I've got a few chocolate bars, and that'll power me now for the next 4 or 5 miles until I get to the shop. So it's 10 to 8. Okay, I'm all packed away. I've got my backpack as light as I can get. I've dumped all the water. I've got a bag full of rubbish that I can get rid of, which as well. So my backpack will be down to about 8 kilos. I'm going to try and keep it like that. And I'm going to absolutely smash to Fowey. It's 11.5 miles. And I'm going via a place called Luxillian, where there is a shop. I can get myself a bottle of water or a bottle of Lucasade and anything else that I might need just to get me to the end where I get picked up. The camping spot is spotless, although I see rubbish stuffed away in the rocks and things like that. Sort of does my head in a bit. This is Helman Tor. Now onwards and southwards to Fowey. Absolutely no need. A good thing about Helman Tor is it is approximately halfway between Padstow and Fowey, and there's a car park here. So if you get to Helman Tor and you think you've had enough after 14, 15, 16 miles, however far you've come, then you could get picked up here quite easily, either in the evening, or you could camp here in the morning and go, oh, I can't be bothered. I'll phone Lucy and I'll get her to pick me up. So very useful. And not only that, all around the Tor, and say if the weather's a bit gnarly, inclement, as some people like to say, if the weather's like that, then all around the Tor there are plenty of flat areas, fields, etc. that you can camp in. Obviously, again, not legal, and really you should have the permission of the landowner, but as long as you obey the principles of leave no trace, keep the noise down, keep light pollution down, that way you can't get spotted, and don't bother the animals, then, you know, I suspect, particularly here along the Saints Way, most of the landlords, farmers, etc., they probably turn a blind eye to it, because they expect people to camp on the lanes and fields and tours along the route. Here along the foot of Helman Tor. Helman Tor's behind me. You can see what I mean. And in fact, that lake down there, that pond, I was going to head down there if the wind was too bad at the top of the hill. It was one of my designated areas, but I noticed that there's a bit of a channel here. It's a bit of a slope. It doesn't look very comfortable. It looks a bit bumpy, but you could probably just pitch a tent up there, no problem. No one's going to say anything. People were up on the Tor yesterday. I had someone flying a drone around above my head while I was in the tent trying to watch the darts, which I wasn't too happy about. But and another lady found a hat which had obviously dropped off my belt, and she was walking a dog and she just threw the hat. Well, come and drop the hat to me. So yeah, I think people are probably used to people wild camping here. My first immediate impression after walking half of the Saints Way is it's all on roads. So if you're going to do this hike, yeah, boots are great, but especially in the summer, you could probably get away with a pair of walking shoes, or even a decent pair of trainers and a decent pair of socks. And you might find that it's much better on your knees, ankles, hips and stuff. So, because it's all little lanes like this, vast majority. The rest has been fields so far. I know I'm going to do a bit of river walking and maybe a bit on the coastline in a minute, so it could be a bit muddier, but that's at the end of the walk, and you won't care so much then. Just wash your trainers. Other things of note about this walk, if you're used to the Peak District, or if you're used to the Lake District, or if you're used to the hilly climbs of Dartmoor, out actually in the countryside, in nature itself, as opposed to roads, then you're going to find this walk not particularly challenging. And I have to say, you know, I found it really quite easy. I got a bit tired towards the end, as you do when you're approaching 15 miles with a backpack on. But, you know, this morning I woke up and thought, oh, 12 miles is going to be a doddle. And it really is. Not a challenging walk. It's just quite a long distance. There aren't really any particularly difficult climbs for you to make. So I'm not going to say I'm disappointed. I'm actually quite pleased. Apart from I didn't start at Padstow, you know, I cut off a couple of miles, worried that it was going to be a really tough walk, and I could have probably gone right coast to coast rather than almost from one coast to a coast. However, I have hardly seen a single soul. I saw a bloke walking his dog a minute ago. There was a couple of people up on the tour last night, probably waiting for the sunset and to play around with their drones or whatever. I saw the old man at Brecon Common, had a little chat with him, some farmers and tractors. I've heard some dogs barking as I've gone past farms. A lady asked me for directions. I didn't know where the fuck I was. Other than that, I haven't seen anyone. No one walk. I've seen no other walkers. I'm the only one doing this Saints Trail that I've seen. I haven't seen anyone behind me. I haven't seen anyone coming towards me, etc. So I find that quite interesting. The parts of Cornwall that you walk through are incredibly isolated and remote. Cornwall and its landscapes have a lot of wind turbines and electric pylons, like the big electric pylons, lots of them. And it's very, very windy. So they're my major sort of first impressions of the Saints Way walk. It's an easy walk. If you want to get into walking challenges, just like I do, then I suspect this would be for a first sort of long distance walk, 30 miler, 25 miler, then over 2 days. This one's perfect. It offers just the right amount of challenge and it's just hard enough work, and it gives you plenty of opportunity to stop, to get off or to refuel, and there are places for you to wild camp, particularly at Helman Tor. So try it, get yourself down to Padstow, get yourself a couple of days off work and walk coast to coast. They're the cows that make Padstow cheese, which we bought some last time we was here actually. Very nice cheese, you should try it. Proper Cornish cheese. Right, and if you suffer with camping anxiety, if you don't want to jump into someone's field, or you're concerned about camping in a public place, you know, like on Helman Tor, then the camping field is actually a great spot. About 15 quid for the night for a simple pitch, and it's just got a giant field in there. There are also electricity hookups, showers, toilets, stuff like that. It's very, very, very basic, which is why I'm recommending it. So a camping field, and it's about halfway between Fowey and Padstow. It's about 10 miles away from Fowey along the Saints route. So that's been fly tips, look. Shocking. stone ruins all along this pathway through some woodland and marshland on the way from Helman Tor to Luxillian. Cool name that, isn't it? Luxillian. Very Mediterranean, I believe. And it would have been Mediterraneans, Spanish, Portuguese, who all have links to Cornwall. In particular, Bodmin, as me and Lucy found out last weekend, would have walked along this route. Hence, we've got these Spanish sounding names, and also all the names of the places here: St. Colomb, St. Germans, St. Denis, St. Wen, and so on. All related to the saints that historically walked this route. These wooden bridges don't really have the same impact as the stone bridges that I've walked across. So this is the Luxillian Parish Church. It's very similar in architecture to the church that I saw at Lanavet and to the church that we're going to see in Fowey. And again, this will date all the way back to the 14th, 13th century. And it's a bit of a beauty, isn't it? I'm not going into this one. I'm going to keep walking. And there's the Premier. Handy. And the shop here at Luxillian is open all day, every day, like the one in Lanavet. And I'll probably put a bit of a guide for shops and pit stops and places to camp in the text, either in the thread here on Twitter, X, or in your YouTube description. And Luxillian even has a railway line passing through it. And I believe there is actually a functioning train station here, but I haven't gone to check it out. Why even bother? Yeah, why even bother putting it in a bag? You're just going to leave it there. Insane. Right, 8 miles to go, and the time is 9:45, so I'll be done by 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock latest. Probably more like 1 o'clock. Didn't see you there. Magnificent horse you are, aren't you? The next stop for me is in the Par area, so I'm going to smash it out now. More rubbish. Just dumped. Right here in the woodlands. This is Prudhoe House, if I pronounce that correctly. Huge. Can't see it properly from here. Yeah, I don't think you'd get away with while camping on there. As good as it would be for a pitch. Almost at St. Blazy. More rubbish. Look at that. It's a CD player or a cooker or something in a bowl. Gosh. So this is St. Blazy, a tiny little village named after a saint. Next stop, Par. Huh. 4.5 kilometres left according to that sign. However, my route says there's 5 miles left, so we'll see. And in the distance is St. Blazy Parish Church. Again, similar construction to all the other churches along this route. So that is Par, And for the first time, I can see the sea on the south coast. Incredible. I can now see the south coast. So I have walked from just outside of Padstow. Petroc Little was the place, called the bridge, all the way now to, I'm approaching Par, and then from Par it is just a little wander down to Fowey. So I'm feeling very, very, very satisfied with myself, and yeah, got a kick of energy and adrenaline. I want to get this over and done with, and hopefully faster than I originally planned, which was 2 p.m, and I've got just under 3 hours to finish to achieve that goal. But remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Par and Fowey, and this particular part of Cornwall is an area actually I know very well. I've frequented Fowey for years and years and years, and it's one of my favourite places. So to finish there, even though I've already recorded a video of the village in Fowey, is poetic in many ways. And Tywardreath can be dated back to 400 BC when it was an Iron Age fort. Incredible. And there was a well here as well. Right, back on the mic. I've taken a minor detour because I was fed up of walking on the roads, and I've cut onto the coast path at Par. So this is Par Sands that you can see behind me. Over in the distance over there is Falmouth. Par is again fishing port. It's got an industry based on the sea. There's some docks over there, etc. And I was fed up with walking on the roads, so I thought I'd get some sea air, and I feel better already. And it's better underfoot as well for the final 3.5 miles. And actually, I'll rejoin the Saints Way in a minute. And actually, this isn't a shortcut. I'm going to walk around the coast to a place called Polcaris, a place where I often went and had crab sandwiches. Very good crab sandwiches, very expensive crab sandwiches too. So I'm going to go there, and I've had about half a mile to my journey. Doesn't really matter now, does it? And when I get to the end, I would have completed 25.5 miles. In about 12 to 13 hours. It's not bad, is it? Cross country and roads and farms. Anyway, I'm at Par Sands. Next stop, Polcaris. That is Polcaris. I've just arrived at a place called Polcaris, a place that I've frequented a few times. Just march around from Fowey to come here to have a drink, have a nice cold cider and some crab sandwiches back in the day. And the other thing I remember about Polcaris is there's a really, really savage hill that I've got to climb to get back up to the top. all the way up there, steps, in order to reconnect with the Saints Way. So I sort of harmed myself going around the coastal path, to be honest, but I'm almost there. So if you're ever in the area here and you do the coast path, check out the Rashley Inn. Really, really good food in there, really good, high quality food. Expensive, but good. Murderous hill to climb, but once I've got to the top, I've basically got a 1.5 mile walk through some fields, a little bit of roads, and then I'll be at Fowey. And I'm bloody knackered now, and my feet are feeling it. So not too far to go. Might be one of the last times I see that on this route. I'm now at a place called Treacherous Farm, and I am currently 2 miles away. Amazeballs. There's a church here. This is Treacherous Church. I'm not going down there because it is a dead end. Hello, Mr. Cows. I've actually walked this part of the Saints Way quite a few times in the past, either to get to Polcaris or just for a walk to Parsons Beach, or because it was in the times of my misspent youth, just a drunk wander somewhere. Anyway, I'm back in the countryside, which is great for the final part of the journey. It's good to have these familiar memories at the end, familiar scenery and stuff. Sort of makes me reminisce on what I was, who I was back then. Many would say a rather unpleasant person. Many would say I'm still an unpleasant person, especially in Bodmin right now. That's another story. Bloody idiots. Lambs to the slaughter they are in Bodmin, I'll tell you. They're all turkeys voting for Christmas. It brings back memories, and it makes me think about why I have done this walk in the first place, or any of the walks that I do, but this one in particular. So why did I do the walk? I have been thinking about that the whole time I've been away. And one, people who have been following me on Twitter since the Brexit days, since the COVID days, maybe when I worked on TNT, or recently just, follow me on social media, or you like my videos here if you're watching on YouTube. I have been trying to change my algorithm. In fact, I've changed my algorithm. And that has led me to the next stage where I've been, we'll call it reconnecting with my faith. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a God-fearing person, but it does mean that I believe that God now is within me, just as it is within all of us if we choose to change our algorithm and connect. So that's one reason why I've walked the Saints Way. And it sounds very, what's the word for it? It sounds very cliched, but it's very, very true. I've also wanted to walk in the footsteps of our forefathers. Tradesmen, pilgrims, and saints walk the route that I have walked today from Padstow down to Fowey, and vice versa. People from Europe have travelled up through Europe, up through Cornwall, and then into Ireland in order to avoid dangerous waters, but also dangerous men after their money, after their goods, after their taxes. So that's another reason why I've done it. I also wanted to see some of the churches and chapels, and there wasn't enough for my liking, to be honest. I'm also in training for the Two Moors Way, and this has given me a good feel of what it would be like on the Two Moors Way, although I'm certainly not going to be walking as long distance on each day. I'll definitely have to curtail it to 10 miles per day. But ultimately, it was a challenge that I couldn't turn down. I had to see if I could walk coast to coast. I have done it by a couple of miles. I know that people go, no, he hasn't done it. I've done it by a couple of miles. And it's just nice to get out in the countryside and see parts of the world that no one else sees. And trust me, vast majority of people have not seen what I've seen in the last few days. And I do recommend all the good people out there, all the good English people out there, come down to Cornwall and have a look at what the world used to look like once upon a time. Behind me marks the beginning of the end of my journey. I have now reached the outskirts of Fowey. Look at my smile, man. So there's a little boatyard behind me. We're in land. Amazed how they got them up here. And there's a little pig farm just there. There's no pigs in it, so I didn't video it. So Lankelly Lane and Prickly Post Lane means I'm in Fowey. And oh, it all brings back so many memories doing this little last stretch. Goes back decades. A bit of advice for those who are interested in walking long distances, doing walking challenges, doing the Saints Way, or the Tombs Way, or the West Highland Way, all these long walks that are available through hiking. When you're walking, make sure you extend your leg and you stretch it and you straighten it out. You straighten it out at the end of each stride. Something I used to be really bad at. And I don't know, I mean, it's said that this is like a foreign way or an unusual way of walking. But what you're doing is you're resting your leg at the end of each stride. And all those micro rests, if you want to call them that, they add up while you're walking, yeah? Makes a big difference, particularly when you're walking uphill or you're doing a climb. You need to straighten your legs out. If you're keeping them bent all the time, your muscles doing work, you're building up the lactic acid, and you're making your life far more difficult for yourself. Another bit of advice, take as little as possible. The only thing I brought with me that really weighed a lot, that I wasn't happy about, was the water. Other than that, I've got a tent, a sleeping bag, a sleeping mat. I brought an extra jumper, which is stuffed back in there. And that's merino wool, a bit like this blue one, but grey. And I brought a down jacket. I brought very little gas, just enough for a few boils. I brought some coffee, enough for 3 or 4 cups. I'm gonna have one in a minute when I get to the end. And what else did I bring with me? A lightweight pan, lightweight small cooker, collapsible mug, some toilet roll. Not much else, which is why my pack weight is so low. Oh, an extra pair of socks. You need to change socks every day to keep your feet good. Trying to think, what else is in my pack? Plastic bag for rubbish, that's gone, that's been dumped in a bin. Not in the woodland or on top of a Tor, like everyone else seems to be doing. So that's it. I've brought almost nothing with me, and my rucksack. So my pack weight, excluding water and food, was down close to about 7 kilos or just under. I mean, I brought a walking stick with me. I regret that as well for this particular walk. Normally I wouldn't leave the house without it, but yeah, it was unnecessary for this particular walk. You don't need a stick for the Saints Way unless it really aids you in the walking. I use it more for you know, climbing up stuff, checking, you know, the footing before me when I'm on Dartmoor, etc. And it's not been necessary for this walk, and I expect for the rest of the year that will also be unnecessary. So yeah, don't pack your fears. Bring as little as possible. Weight matters when you're walking long distances. I do feel a bit emotional because this is the end. And I am now entering Fowey. This is Ready Money Beach. It's right on the edge of Fowey. I was here only a few days ago, to be fair. And now I'm going to get a picture of this sign with me, because it's sort of the start place of the walk. I am going to walk into the town, but there you go. Coast to coast. Coast to coast. Padstow to Fowey.